Well, let me talk about the relative real estate tax rates in Petersburg and surrounding jurisdictions and the damage that I see resulting from the huge disparity. The latest data I have is for 2014, and in Petersburg, the real estate tax rate is $1.35 per $100 of assessed value. You compare that to Prince George, which is 80 cents, only 80 cents per $100 of assessed value. There's do the math, a 55 cent differential. And that differential, year after year, really decade after decade, tends to drive people away from Petersburg who are of a mind to invest a significant amount of money in their homes and in their businesses. And it drives those people to the surrounding jurisdictions where the tax rate is much more affordable. I know that from just common sense. I know that from some of my employees here in my law office over the years. They've told me that they live in the county rather than in the city because they don't have to pay anything like the same amount of real estate taxes when they live in the county. And what do we do about that? I realize that there are tremendous demands placed on Petersburg's budget. I am a strong believer that there needs to be a safety net to help those who are not able to help themselves. I believe in some level of low-income housing. I remember Federal Street and what Federal Street living conditions were like, and Federal Street was not alone. There were a number of other streets that also had deplorable living conditions, and the city does need to address that, but everything needs to be in balance, and in my view things are out of balance, and that's one reason why we have such a huge demand on our city budget for services. Now, how do we go about changing this? How do we go about reversing this trend? It is going to take a sustained effort over a long period of time. But this is the recipe that I would like to see City Council follow. Every year we reduce our real estate tax rate by 1 penny until we achieve parity with our neighboring jurisdictions. Now, I don't know exactly what parity is going to be, but right now we don't have to address that question because we're so far from it, and no one would say that we are anywhere near parity at this point. Now, a 1 penny decrease in the real estate tax rate translates into a decrease in revenue of approximately $163,000 a year to the city. So that if we take the real estate tax rate from $1.35 per $100 of assessed value to $1.34 per $100 of assessed value, assuming that the assessed values remain the same, the real estate revenue will drop by $163,000. There will be offsetting benefits to that. One is we will, over time, attract people who will spend more money on creating businesses, creating jobs, and building homes in Petersburg. It's a gradual process, but there is that very real benefit. Also, by decreasing the real estate tax rate, to some extent, we tend to increase the value of homes in Petersburg. It will not be a corresponding dollar for dollar or penny for penny increase, but it will increase the value of the homes in Petersburg. As any homeowner in Petersburg knows, as every homeowner in Petersburg knows, housing values in Petersburg are badly depressed. There are a number of reasons that's the case. One of them is our high real estate tax rate. Another one is, unfortunately, the educational system that we have here in Petersburg that we have worked like dogs to improve. a lot of people have worked like dogs to improve. But I think lowering the tax rate will tend also to improve the schools by attracting more investment here in Petersburg, and by attracting more citizens to Petersburg who will contribute toward Petersburg's success. So I do see reducing the real estate tax rate as a method for improving Petersburg's future. Again, it needs to be a sustained effort. It needs to be incrementally small so that it doesn't hurt. It's not a jolt. But every year we need to tighten our real estate tax revenue belt a notch. And then the next year another notch. And the next year another notch, until we approach parity with our neighboring jurisdictions. This table that I believe will be on the video when this interview is shown will let the viewer of the video see the numbers and see the disparity between the real estate tax rate in Petersburg and in the real estate tax rate in our.
So with your with the hope that you get on council, how will you engage your constituents and really give us a plan that you will take to remain engaged with them after you get elected, after you've been in office, to make sure that you are meeting, you are hearing their concerns and you are meeting your concerns as the council person for Ward 4, in the sense that I believe that Petersburg has one of the best democratic systems you find anywhere. When you actually have a council person for each ward who represents that ward, and the idea is for you to be the representative of that ward to on council, and also to care for the city, right? So, I don't think the job of the council person is just to show up for these meetings, on Tuesday, every other Tuesday, or just have these once in a while meeting, but actually be engaged and actually be know what is going on in your ward and how to help resolve the issues, and I think these are some of the things that we need to do differently in the city, where people are actually really involved. They're not just come and show up when they need to run for office, and show them it's convenient for them. But what would you do to engage them, everybody in your constituents, and to remain engaged to actually help them?
Well, it's a great question, and certainly a question that the public deserves to hear an answer to. I've asked myself that same question. I am open to ideas that the public may have. A couple of thoughts have come to my mind. One is to make myself available to meet with the constituents, the public, during an hour before every city council meeting.
Okay.
So that if the city council meeting is scheduled to start at 6:30, maybe we could meet at 5:30.
Okay.
And anybody who wanted to talk with me about something could come and talk. It would be, I think, easy on everybody, just mechanically.
Absolutely.
Easy on me, easy on the public. And if a question comes up during that 1 hour period, it doesn't have to be an hour, it could be 30 minutes. Or if no one shows up, if there's no public demand for it, it wouldn't take place at all.
Absolutely.
But if there were questions that required an answer from City Hall, you might say, the city manager would likely be attending the meeting in an hour, and the question could be posed to the city manager, and if it's a pothole, if it's a garbage collection issue, if it's a too many dogs that my neighbor is keeping. There's a tree on city property that is leaning over my fence. The city manager will be there to address the question. So I think that would be an efficient way for the public to communicate the concern to the representative on council, and for the representative on council to relay the citizens' concern to City Hall. That's an approach worth exploring, may not work, and perhaps, as I say, others may have better ideas, but that seems to me to be an idea that I'd be willing to explore and implement and see whether it works. And the nice thing about Petersburg is that, yes, we have problems, but we are small enough to solve them. They're not insoluble problems. It's not like we're dealing with a major neighborhood issue in Los Angeles or New York City. We are small enough that our problems are also small enough to be addressable. And I think this communication that I hope to have with the constituents, the public, my fellow citizens, will be a means toward working toward solutions to problems that we all share. Problems that we all share, that permeate the lives of all of us. We all want safe neighborhoods. We all want clean neighborhoods. We all want good schools. These are desires and perhaps entitlements that are human.
Absolutely.
They're not unique to any one segment of the city. So, going back to your question, I'd like to try meeting with the public for an hour before each meeting of City Council, and see how that goes. And I also am certainly open to meeting with people in my office. If they have a question, they can call my office and make sure I'm going to be in and stop by and talk with me. I'm delighted to do that as well.
Okay.
I think those two methods are good ways of engaging the public and giving the public an opportunity to engage me.
Okay.
And in that fashion, identify issues to be addressed and solutions to be implemented.
So what I'm hearing is that you are open to suggestions also, because about how to engage the public. So you have ideas that you are going to do, things that you're going to implement if you win a seat, and you're also open to suggestions from your constituents if they have other ways of engaging with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think anybody has all the answers.
Absolutely.
I really don't. I think a little humility is a great thing, and humility meaning recognizing that I don't have all the answers. And as I said to begin with, I'm a good listener.
Yes, sir.
And I would like the opportunity to listen and to respond. And I hope that the electorate of the 4th Ward gives me that opportunity come November the 8th.
So we've already discussed your vision for the city, which I think is a great vision in your 5-step platform. We've already discussed what you would do to help correct the debts in the city. We've already discussed your plans to have increased revenue. What are your thoughts on citizens' audit of financial control and human capital in the city? In a sense that I think there has not been created the need for citizens to know what is going on due to what has happened in the past. Do you feel like we should have people who get access to our finances periodically, a select group of citizens who may have background in budgeting and planning and so forth, to be aware of, to get involved in the financial control, the human capital in the city, when it comes to who is hired, how much are they paid, and so forth. Not too much personal stuff that borderline gets on the legal side of the issues, but at least to give us an idea of how much we're spending, how much we're paying people, and how the city is being run.
Well, that's an interesting approach. I think if we put information in the city council agenda that gives the public a heads up as to the financial situation of the city and the issues being addressed by city council, that the public can read that agenda, which is online,
Okay.
in my hope, with attachments that would give that financial information. For example, if there is a periodic reporting of whether departments are staying within their budget, that ought to be part of the agenda,
Okay.
so that that information would be out there for the
Okay.
public to see.
Okay.
And then if the public has any questions about it, if we have these meetings an hour before city council meets,
Absolutely.
there could be an informal sit down. Charlie, I don't understand why this number is what it is. Would you ask the city manager, when it's your part of the agenda tonight, to give us an explanation? I think that would work great and avoid the rigidity of having a formal committee, and it would also avoid creating a committee that people who are not on it might resent.
Okay.
I mean, there often is an adverse consequence to well-intentioned actions, and I can see how someone who is interested in the city's finances and the city's well-being might resent not being on, quote, the committee of citizens. So I can see an adverse consequence to having a formal committee. But if we put the information out there for the public to see, and if we have meetings at which the public can ask me or other members of council, if other members of council also followed that idea, then I think we will have accomplished the essential purpose of a committee,
Okay.
and that is communication, identification of what the problem is, and a discussion of what a solution might be, and also a retrospective revisit of previous attempts to address problems to see how well those previous attempts are succeeding.
Okay.
So I think the committee idea is an unnecessary I think it's not necessary to getting to the solution to people's concerns.
Okay.
I think the solution to getting, the way to get to the solution to people's concerns is to have an interaction of ideas
Okay.
on an informal basis, not necessarily behind a microphone with a 3-minute limit, all right, where no one responds to anything, but people just speak. They might as well be talking to a wall or be standing in the shower talking to themselves in terms of no response. But sit down with the member of council and ask them, Charlie, what about this? I don't understand. Help me understand. Or have you considered this, Charlie? Or what about that need? Why is that not being addressed? Or why are we spending so much money on this activity when we have this need, when we owe the schools $2.8 million? How can we possibly justify spending money on X or Y or Z?
Okay.
You know, that kind of discussion is at the kernel of local democracy, and I would love to see it take place.
Right, right. So what I hear is that you believe that tran- transparency and freedom of information, where we actually share information on what's going on with the finances and with issues and our solutions to it, is what that's more important than, or even more necessary, more so than just having a committee of a few people, but other folks will still have a lot of issues that may not be addressed by those committees, which is a great idea, because I think from what we now have, if we are able to have meetings where you can actually ask your council questions and they can actually answer you, then it will resolve a lot of the issues that we have right now. Where people can actually get direct answers from their council members, instead of coming to council and being frustrated because your answers are not getting, your questions are not getting answered.
I think that's absolutely right. I think the availability of that exchange of information will result in a number of good things. One is alleviating frustration.
Yeah.
I mean, we all feel a tremendous amount of frustration, those of us who are on the outside. I feel it. I look at the newspaper every morning to see what am I about to learn that has been kept under the covers but now is out in the open. That's not good.
Absolutely.
And we're all frustrated because we love the city and we see the city failing. And we may have good ideas, but we don't have any effective way to express them. And I think an exchange with the member of city council and from there with the city manager would be a great way to help alleviate that frustration and also help to address problems and implement solutions.
So with your background and with your experience, if the citizens of Ward 4 give you the privilege to serve them as their council member, what will be your solutions to two of the biggest issues that we have in the city? Poverty and unemployment. And I understand the fact that we don't have any short-term silver bullets, and council don't have direct input into creating jobs and so forth, but they do have the effect of promoting economic development. So what will you do as a member of council for Ward 4 to help alleviate poverty and to poverty and unemployment in the city?
Those are huge problems. And I think city council can contribute to solutions, but city council is not going to have the power to eliminate poverty or to increase employment opportunities as much as we would like to see them increased.
Mm-hmm.
Now, things I have talked about already in this interview, well, let me start that sentence again. At the same time, things that I've talked about already in this interview will tend to address these problems and make them less severe. One of those steps is reducing the real estate tax rate. Another step is to pull out all the stops on creating an industry here in Petersburg based on our remarkable tourism and history in all of its facets. I have been committed to all facets of Petersburg history, not just the Caucasian history, but the African American history. I don't know if you remember this past spring, there was a suggestion that Petersburg put low-income housing in the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
yes,
Halifax Triangle.
Yes.
on the avenue. I spoke against that. I fought that. I thought it was a bad idea. I thought it was a degradation of the African American history. I went to the Petersburg Library. I got a book out of the Petersburg Library that showed historically the Triangle Market. It was called the New Market, in operation. And I made the case that this triangle is a public use space, and consequently under the Virginia Constitution and a statute that reflects the Virginia Constitution, to sell that triangle required a 75% vote of all members of council, and that consequently no effective vote had been taken to sell that land for low-income housing. I know I was right in that. I was right for a number of reasons. I was right because the Triangle is an important part of African American history in Petersburg. I was right because additional low-income housing in Petersburg is something that we simply cannot digest. We are doing way more than our regional fair share in terms of addressing this significant need. We do need to address low-income housing, but we have to have a balance. But going back to the history and the jobs, I see enhancing our history and marketing our history, marketing our collective role leading up to the Civil War, both the free black role and the role during the siege itself. I think there's a tremendous market for that. And I think by developing what we have to offer, we will create jobs in the process, and that will make a contribution toward employment opportunities and consequently decreasing poverty.
Right, right. So just to clarify, you are not saying that there is not a need for low-income housing, but you are saying that we have to have a balance in comparative to our neighbors, how much of low-income housing that Petersburg should be burdened with.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, from a tax perspective, it is a burden.
Okay.
It does increase the demand for services.
Okay.
We need to do our fair share, and I recognize that our fair share is an essential part of a government function, but we need to put Petersburg first.
Okay.
We need to put Petersburg first. We have to take care of Petersburg's people before we take care of Chesterfield County's people.
Okay.
And the more public housing, the more low-income housing that we create, the more of a magnet, unfortunately, that we create to draw the impoverished and less able financially from surrounding jurisdictions into Petersburg. And there's no way to prevent that. You cannot limit low-income housing to people who were born in Petersburg, or who have lived here for the last 5 years, or who've lived here for the last week. You can't do it legally. It cannot be done. And so it's an unfortunate consequence. It's a good example of a good intention with an adverse consequence in terms of affecting our city's ability to thrive. The key, the watchword is balance. We need to do our balanced fair share, and so do our surrounding jurisdictions.
Great, thank you. So on our very last question, it cannot be avoided that we live in a high minority black community. I believe the black population is about between 80 to 90% of the population. There has been at times through all these political issues that are going on, the tendency for we as human beings to create an environment of division based on race, based on gender, based on income levels, and based on backgrounds. It cannot be avoided. It's the elephant in the room. There is this idea with some white citizens within the environment are trying to get rid of black leadership to take over the city. I think some people have seen you running for office as part of that effort. Through my research, I've actually come to find out that that's not the case. Absolutely not, because you are actually an individual who is not attached to none of these other groups that are doing other activities in a city. I've rarely seen you comment on racial issues or things that brings a racial divide. But even though you, as a community leader, actually may not be divisive, as a member of council, what will you do to help improve the racial divide that seems to exist in the city?
It's a great question. One reason I have wanted to make Petersburg my home, one reason I have dedicated my life to Petersburg, is to build bridges between races. And I have taken that obligation very seriously and done everything I can to achieve the building of those bridges. Whether it was working to elect Senator Obama in 2008, whether it was speaking to protect the African American history in the Triangle, I have made a conscientious effort to look for common values, shared values, values that we all feel as important, and work toward accomplishing them, achieving them, and working with others after I have, with them, identified what those common aspirations are, what those shared aspirations are. Safe Streets is not a Caucasian desire alone. Safe streets are not an African American aspiration alone. Safe streets are an aspiration of all humanity. And at the local government level, there's a huge array of these issues that do not differentiate between Caucasian and African American and Asian and Latino. We all want safe streets. We all want good schools. We all want dignity. We all want to feel that our lives have a purpose. These are not African American values only. These are not Caucasian values only. These are human values that we all share. And I've noticed in both the Caucasian community and in the African American community that too often politicians use racial divisions as a screen behind which to hide their own inadequacies in addressing these needs that we all feel and that we all want to see fulfilled. We need to keep that in mind when we see someone playing, quote, the race card. Okay. Is that race card simply a screen behind which a politician is hiding inadequacies. Regardless, there are shared values and aspirations that are colorblind, and I have lived my life in Petersburg working to achieve those shared aspirations, and I hope that the people of the Fourth Ward will give me an opportunity to continue to do so on another platform where I think I can have an even greater impact in improving the lives of the people of Petersburg, regardless of whether those lives are African American lives or Caucasian lives or Latino lives or Muslim lives or any other category that we might put ourselves in. These are shared concerns, and I want to help work toward addressing them, improving the life for everybody in Petersburg.
Great. Well, viewers, we've come to the end of this interview. This has been Prince Duke Edujamfi interviewing candidates for Fourth Ward, Mr. Charlie Cuthbert, for the City Council. This has been Future Leaders Talk Show for Consensus of Petersburg and Clean Street Petersburg. And our objective is to talk to as many other candidates so we can inform and educate the citizens. We appreciate and thank Mr. Cuthbert.
Well, thank you
for giving us this time, and we'll be seeing more of these interviews. If your candidate for any ward in a city do not agree to an interview with us, then we need to find out what are they hiding, what is their platform, why do they not want to inform the public about their platform. If you are a writing candidate or if you're a recognized candidate, we need to talk to you to find out what is your vision for council, why are you running for council, what are you going to bring to improve us. Thank you. Appreciate you. Join us next time.